Hello YouTube, I am Opalsant and welcome back to the channel. Now I did something a little bit unique, or at least I hope it's unique. I came up with the idea myself, but I'm sure I'm not the first person in the world to do this. I got on Brant Steel, and I selected a random Survivor season with 3 teams, because I wanted to do it with 3 teams, and I changed the settings to where when I randomized the cast, I would only get total drama characters. I did this, and I got a randomized cast with randomized players, the gender balance is equal and all that, and the teams were completely randomized, so there are 3 teams of 6 here. And what I want to do is I want to build a season around this randomized cast that I got. Episode to episode, format, twists, elimination order, connections, friendships, rivalries, plot points, the whole 9 yards I want to do. And hopefully this is going to end up being entertaining and fun and at least intriguing. So if you like this idea and you want to see more of it, or you want to see it done in a different way, or you just enjoy my sultry voice, then please subscribe to the channel for more things like this. Without any further ado, let's get a look at this cast. Alright, here we go. So in terms of this cast, I'm going completely no script here. I have very little plans going into this. I'm kind of winging it as we go, because I feel like that's probably the best way to get like an authentic look at things. I want to go through the important parts of the formatting of the show, like episode count and twists and stuff like that. So what I want to do is I want 26 episodes. I obviously want 26 episodes so that I can properly give things time to develop throughout the season. Secondly, no immunity idols this season, nothing like that. There will be non-elimination rounds, but with a cast of 18, that would require 8 non-elimination rounds? Yeah, 8 non-elimination rounds. And I personally feel like that is too many non-elimination rounds. So what I want to do to counteract that is I want to bring back the Aftermath specials. Taking a look at the cast, we do not have Jeff and we do not have Bridget, so that is something that is possible to be done, so that's what we're going to do. We're gonna have Aftermath specials featuring eliminated contestants every couple episodes. That way we can fill out the amount that we need. And looking at the cast and stuff, I want to merge at 12. And I know that feels early, but I have my reasoning for it and stuff like that. So without any further ado, let's get into the elimination order and why I put people where I put them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each contestant as I decide to eliminate them, and I'm going to explain what they did in the season, why I chose to eliminate them when I did, my point and purpose for keeping certain people longer than other people, and why I got rid of some people earlier on, the storylines that I wanted them to be involved in, and so on and so forth. So, without any further ado, the person who I want to eliminate in the first episode is nobody. I don't want anyone going in the first episode. I want the first episode to be used to establish teams and make teams. This is so A, we can stretch out the episode length as much as we need because we do need to fill 26 episodes, and B, we can sort of start to build the foundations of different relationships that will be playing big roles throughout the season. Then in episode 2, we will be eliminating our first person with team number 3 going down, and our first pre-merge boot being Blanley, for the simple fact of me not thinking Blanley is a very likable presence on screen. And I get that that's kind of the point of her character, but at the same time, it's the thing that I don't want in every single episode of the show, which is why I think it's going to be fun to send her back to the Aftermath with Jeff and Bridget pretty early on, so that she can sort of resume her role there as a bit of a foil to the loving couple, as opposed to her serving a negative presence on the show as a whole in the competition aspect. I understand she could be used as a main antagonist, but I have someone else on the cast who I have penciled in as my main antagonist, so Blanley is our first boot in episode 2. And the on-screen storyline reason that we are going to use is that her team just flat out doesn't really like her. Episode 3 is going to result in our second boot, and our second boot is going to be Zoe. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoy Zoe, but her character hinges so heavily on Mike, and with Mike not being a part of this cast, I don't really see how Zoe can have much storyline potential going into it. On top of that, I don't want any repeat winners, so some winners are going to have to sort of be sacrificed earlier on in the show and in the season, and I feel like Zoe just doesn't have too much that she can really do, and looking at the team that she got, she kind of ended up a little bit unlucky, because in storyline, what we're going to go with is she was getting along well with Cameron, but Topher manipulated Lightning, Izzy, and Sierra onto his side to get rid of Zoe, because he sees Zoe as a big, massive threat, which, rightfully so, considering her previous placements on the show. So, yeah, Zoe gone here, second boot in episode 3. And going into episode 4, the final person we're going to cut before the first Aftermath episode is Cameron. And again, Cameron is a former winner, so obviously I couldn't have him making too deep of a run or anything like that, because I don't want to make the end of the season predictable or anything like that. In storyline, he was close with Zoe, he was simply outnumbered, and when his team lost, he was kind of just screwed. That being said, Cameron, the reason I'm not sending him too far from a character standpoint is, again, he has a lot of his character hinging on Zoe and Mike. For example, in Revenge of the Island, his storyline was entirely related to Mike, and in All Stars, his main storyline was also rather related to Mike and Zoe, with him sort of clinging along as a third wheel. He did have a lot of Sierra stuff going on there, but we're going to try to ignore that, because Sierra has Cody this season, albeit on a different team. That being said, Cameron didn't have too much he could really do in the position that he was put into, and I didn't want to send him too far or too deep into the game, because he has already won, as I said, and I don't see too much that we can really do with him. So Cameron is gone here in episode 4. Now, episode 5 is going to be our first Aftermath episode. Yay, Aftermath episodes! What's going to happen here is the same stuff that typically happens on Aftermath episodes. You got the "that's going to leave a mark," you got the truth or hammer / anvil / tractor trailer / whatever they're throwing in at them, and stuff like that. This isn't a super special Aftermath episode. Blanley gets her spot on the show back, and Cameron and Zoe sort of get to reflect on their adventure together and their friendship, which should be super sweet and cool and fun to see. Next up, we have episode 6, in which we will be losing Sadie, and this is because I don't see Sadie as a character with a lot of potential. I don't see her really having the ability to carry a season or carry a storyline, for that matter, especially without Katie around, because, again, they are so reliant on one another. I don't see Sadie as having too much to be done this season. My thought on how Sadie gets eliminated is Noah and Duncan convince B to vote with them. Beth, Lindsay, and Sadie have split votes. Duncan and Noah convince B to vote with them because Sadie is a weaker member of the team, and despite B getting along with pretty much everyone, he does see that team strength is important, meaning Sadie is cut from the team, and Sadie is cut from the season here in episode 6. Episode 7 is going to be our first non-elimination episode, because we need to drag this out for 26 episodes, and I feel like this could be a decent point for us to sort of recuperate from the fact that we have had 4 straight eliminations from, like, a competition side of things, and we can sort of add some more layers to storylines that are currently being told throughout the season and the episodes that we have going on. Meaning, this episode seemed like a perfect one to fit the idea of non-elimination, in my opinion. In episode 8, we are going to be cutting Lightning. And this is because Lightning has already won a season, and on top of that, he doesn't really have too much left to offer to this season, at least based on the story that I am attempting to tell to this point in time. Lightning is a very solid and funny character, in my opinion, but at the same time, there isn't really too much I can do with him based on the stories that I'm trying to tell. In storyline, what I want going on here is Topher sees that the merge has to be approaching soon, and Lightning is arguably the strongest competitor physically across the entire cast, meaning Lightning has to go. And because he has his claws in Izzy and Sierra, he is able to successfully get rid of the former champion. In episode 9, we will be getting rid of B, and this is really sad for me because I really do like B as a character, but at the same time, I can't really do too much with a character who is unable to speak, and I wanted even gender dynamics for the merge onward, so B just kind of had to go as a result of the rest of the characters that I have left on the male side of things, and I wanted to merge at 12, so B just kind of had to go here. The idea in storyline is Noah, being the strategist of the season, sees that B is a technical master and he is therefore threatened by that and sees that B needs to go. Duncan, being a smart man, agrees, and then Beth and Lindsay are both sort of closer to self-preservation mode at this point in time after having lost Sadie, who was a close third with them. We are then geared up for episode 10 to be our next Aftermath special, which is going to feature Sadie, Lightning, and B, each getting some more screen time, probably their last prominent screen time for this season, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's not too much story going on in the Aftermath episode. It's more so recapping what's going on in the main show, but it's a fun way to get everyone to get a little bit more screen time and recap what's going on in the main show, while also obviously stretching the episode count and allowing these characters to have more personal moments as opposed to the strategy of the main side of things in the competition half of the show. Episode 11 is The Merge, and we are getting rid of nobody. This episode is used strictly to allow characters to start interacting with people from other teams on a regular basis, forming new, well, not really new, all these characters know each other, most of these characters know each other. In most cases, just reconnecting with people who you do already know. And I don't really want anything too crazy to happen in the Merge episode. I know the Merge episodes are supposed to be big ones, but at the same time, I really just want this one to be used as like a stepping stone for the rest of the post-merge part of the season, as opposed to a big bang, if you know what I mean. Episode 12, we are going to be eliminating Izzy, and Izzy is the kind of character who you can always just put on a season and keep around until you really don't need her anymore. Like, that's not meant to be cruel or anything, but Izzy's just the kind of character who can slot in whenever you need someone to take a place in the cast, and I used Izzy in this season as a bit of a device for the pre-merge section of the game, in which I want Izzy to be manipulated by Topher into voting with him, and then come the merge, she is just cast aside and voted out. Not really due to any big reason, but she's got rid of because people are just generally worried about how insane she is, or like afraid of how insane she is. You know, that's just typically why people get rid of Izzy. So Izzy is going to be our merge boot in episode 12. Episode 13, and our second boot after the merge, is going to be Duncan. And I can hear you all already saying, thank God he finally got rid of Duncan. Why did they let him merge? And my reason for letting Duncan merge, I have a few actually. One is the fact that he is one of the most prominent characters in Total Drama history, and I know that is a reason that he doesn't need as much screen time as a lot of other people, but at the same time, he is the character above probably anyone else on this cast who is able to carry a storyline and able to really carry a season on his back and always be entertaining and always just be an enjoyable presence on screen. But the big reason I wanted to keep Duncan around until post-merge was so that him and Gwen could end up sort of interacting a lot more. And across these 3 episodes that Duncan survives into the merge, I want them to sort of evolve their relationship out of the romantic sense and sort of back to the stage where they can be friends like they were in Late Island and particularly Action. So that there's not really a romantic feel, but they are friends. They're like pals because of how they got along. And they figure out how to put the relationship thing behind them, and that sort of thing is what I want to see from the Duncan and Gwen thing. So we can sort of tie up the loose ends that All Stars left in terms of their relationship, which kind of really sucked. I also want Duncan to act like Duncan again and not sort of a wannabe tough guy. I want him to actually be the delinquent self with a softer side that he is in the first 3 seasons. So yeah, Duncan goes here as the second merge boot. Now, episode 14, we are going to be getting rid of Sierra, and the reason I kept Sierra around for so long was because I wanted to show that she is a strong competitor still, and even though she was on the same team as Cameron, I wanted to show that she could stand apart from him. And now that Cody's back on the cast, we can have a fun thing where she's upset that she's not on the same team as Cody, but at the same time, she's glad that Cody and her are on the game together again, and she keeps thinking back to how bad All Stars was for her and stuff like that. So we can really grow some form of emotional attachment to Sierra, and in a way, she won't be as easily hateable as she was in All Stars. I want her to go back to the world tour style of Sierra, where, yeah, she was an obsessed, crazy superfan, but she was also a pretty solid competitor all around, and not just completely clinically insane. She was still clinically insane, it just wasn't the only thing she had going for her. And I kind of want to just give her this much screen time, 14 episodes, to sort of redeem herself a little bit throughout the course of the season. We're going to say she gets booted because Topher is threatened by the fact that she is too a superfan, and Sierra is starting to see through Topher's act and starting to want to get rid of him, which results in Battle of the Superfans, where Topher manages to come out on top. And another thing that this will do is this will give Cody an opportunity to have some time away from Sierra and making it further than her, and see if he's able to stand on his own legs, because to this point in the season he's only been to one elimination, and in World Tour he was gone pretty much as soon as Sierra was. So this is sort of a jumping point for Cody to try and prove himself. So Sierra goes here in episode 14. Now, episode 15 is Aftermath number 3 of the season, and this should be fun because we get 3 interesting characters, 3 solid characters from the pre-ROTI casts, I should say, because Sierra didn't come into World Tour. But you get what I'm saying. It should be an entertaining Aftermath episode. They're all going to talk about what they think of people in the game, talk about who they're rooting for, so Duncan can say he's rooting for Gwen because they're friends now. Sierra's naturally going to say she's rooting for Cody, and she's going to be a little bit nuts that she can't see him right now, but she's not going to be overboard nuts like she was in All Stars. She's just going to still be Sierra, but bearable. That's what we're looking for. And Izzy's just going to be completely loco. It should be a fun Aftermath episode, and then we can get back into the competition. Back to the competition now. As episode 16, we will be eliminating Beth, and we are going to get rid of Beth here because obviously Beth is a winner and she can't win again. But I wanted to keep Beth around for a little while so that we could see what she really has to offer. I want her and Lindsay's friendship to be a pretty major point throughout this season, much like it was in Action, because it is really just a genuine friendship between two not very intelligent people, but it's still fun to see them just have fun and be friends, because a lot of the show is drama, and being able to see genuine friendships is always nice. Beth goes here to motivate Lindsay for the rest of the game, and this is a bit of a turning point in Lindsay's storyline, where she starts really kicking it into high gear and trying a lot harder because she's trying to win in honor of Beth, in honor of her friend, and for her friend, which I think is a really sweet thing that can really add some more emotional connection to the stories that we've got building at the moment. Beth is eliminated here in storyline because her and Lindsay are rightfully viewed as a duo, and Noah, seeing that they are voting together and they are being sort of manipulated by people like Topher and Alejandro and even Scott, sees that them being a package deal is a threat to his game and many other people's games, so he pulls in a bunch of numbers to get rid of Beth here. Episode 17 is our final non-elimination episode of the season, so yay, big time to celebrate there. There's going to be a big thing here between the 3 biggest strategists of the season, our 3 big brain players, and it's going to be a triangle war going forward between Noah, Topher, and Alejandro, where the 3 of them are sort of battling it out, and there's going to be a big thing in the challenge in this episode that's supposed to heat up tension between the 3 groups, or the 3 players who are trying to build their own 3 separate groups, if you will. But that's kind of all I wanted to do here for this non-elimination round, because I want it to kind of be close to Alejandro going, but then it's revealed to be a non-elimination and Alejandro stays. Now in episode 18, we begin to pick things up as we lose Cody, and it sucks to see Cody go here. He did last a couple episodes later than Sierra left, so it did show a little bit that he is able to do pretty well on his own. I wanted him to sort of follow, like he was kind of in a follower position here. And the idea is the three major strategists that I did talk about before have three separate things that they've got going on. Topher has his manipulative thing with Beth and Lindsay and Scott as sort of his second in command. And then Noah has Cody, Gwen, and Sammy. And then Alejandro is sort of lone wolfing and playing the middle between the groups. And what I wanted was, after Beth went due to Noah, Topher then got Alejandro on his side to shift the game to get rid of Cody, because Cody has a vendetta against Alejandro from what happened back in World Tour, where Al kind of just used Cody for a majority of their time spent together on that season. And Cody, I'm glad he got to make it this far into the season. Cody is a personal favorite of mine, so there may have been a bit of bias in me letting him go this far. But for the most part, Cody did serve a pretty decent, sort of nice guy fitting in the season. He was sort of by Gwen's side the whole time. He got along well with Sammy. The whole idea was him sort of being the nice guy and being able to stand without Sierra, despite the fact that he did still play in the shadows of a more credible player, in this case being Noah. So yeah, we send Cody home here in episode 18. Now for episode 19, we will be losing Gwen. And Gwen is, of course, a previous winner or a previous alternate winner, but that doesn't mean she can't still make a pretty deep run. Obviously, she's not going to win again, but she did have a lot of storyline stuff going on here, because she had Cody wrapped around her finger, naturally, as she always does. She was aligned with Noah, who is meant to be sort of a secondary big strategist of the season. And she had the whole Duncan thing come merge again. She's trying to prove that she can still cut it, because her action and World Tour things weren't great, and she went out in such a disappointing way in All-Stars. So she's really just trying to prove that she still has what it takes to do really well in this game, and she really does sort of do really well this season. Obviously, she made up with Duncan. She got along well with so many people. But here, this is just another example of Topher and his side being able to get the upper hand over Noah and his side, and Gwen ends up being the one to fall here. The reason they aren't going directly after Noah, by the way, which I didn't mention, is because I want him to be sort of winning these mentally focused challenges that are going on, and he's winning immunity through those, so it's showing that he is very intelligent, but he's still losing numbers. So we are seeing that Noah is smart, but he's just being outmaneuvered as things go on, you know. So yeah, Gwen goes here in episode 19. Every 5 episodes, you know what that means. It's Aftermath time. This Aftermath is going to feature Beth, Cody, and Gwen, which is an island trio, which is a lot of fun. And naturally, they're going to talk about their experiences in the game. Beth's going to be sort of willing on Lindsay, and Cody and Gwen are going to be like talking about how they're very impressed with how they managed to do, how well they managed to do it this season. They're going to be rooting for Sammy primarily, and some Noah in there too, and really hoping that Topher and Alejandro and Scott get their comeuppance, and they're going to say they feel bad for Lindsay for being manipulated and stuff like that. So they're going to just really talk about what they think of everyone left, and there's going to be bits where Gwen and Duncan get to interact, and Sierra can reunite with Cody, and all sorts of things with the Aftermath people finally getting to reunite with the people from the game who are now out of the game, which is always fun to see. Episode 21, we will finally be losing Alejandro. Our final winner left in the game finally falls at the final 6. And Alejandro is going to have a big presence on the season because he's just such an entertaining character, and he's always so enjoyable on screen. I want him to act as a lone wolf, sort of secondary antagonist slash anti-hero for the season. Alejandro is sort of the foil to Topher while also being an antithesis to Noah, and just generally being devilish in a way that is so charismatic and fun to see at the same time. He's going to have the storyline of playing the middle and trying to overcome his reputation that he built up throughout World Tour and All-Stars. He was kind of doing that in All-Stars, but then he was kind of an idiot towards the end of All-Stars, because why would you tell Mal that you had DVD evidence of him being Mal? That's dumb. This Alejandro is smart. This is a witty Alejandro. This is a very clever, quick on his feet Alejandro. This is the athletic Alejandro. This is the character from World Tour who was unstoppable to everyone until Heather played him at his own game. This is Alejandro at peak Alejandro levels, and that's why he has to go here. He is so threatening and intimidating to the rest of the players that for just this one moment, Noah is able to come to an agreement with Topher, because Noah has always thought that Alejandro was slimy. He was never a fan of Alejandro. Noah is able to come together with Topher, and Alejandro gets eliminated unanimously here, as everyone finally sees through the fact that he's been playing the middle the entire time. So, Alejandro gets 6th place here, and is gone in episode 21 out of 26. Now, at the final 5 in episode 22, we will be losing our 5th placer, Noah. And Noah is going to play the role of the brains and kind of the leader of the good side. He's on the kind-hearted side. He's aligned with people like Sammy and Gwen and Cody, and early on he's working with Duncan, who is notoriously good-hearted despite the fact that he is a bad boy. Noah is the character who is sort of driving the story forward on terms of the good side, like I said. So his group is the heroic side, and he is finding a way to just survive. You see, coming into this season, what I wanted was Noah to finally be super driven to get the win, and he brings it up in almost every episode, how it's I've never won, and this season I'm coming for blood, I'm going to win, but he always does it in a way that makes him likable, despite the fact that he is being a little bit conniving, but he's being conniving towards more evildoers or people on the evil side, so Noah is likable in that sense. He's focused on quite a bit throughout the season and sort of shown as a faux winner. So coming towards the closing stages of the season around here, people are expecting Noah to be the winner. That's what I wanted. But Noah's going to fall just short here at the final 5 as Topher wins immunity, and that leaves Topher, Lindsay, and Scott the ability to get rid of either Noah or Sammy, and the fact that Noah has been pulling the strings, they do get rid of Noah here, and he's just distraught about it, and it sucks, but at the same time, he's not going to be a big dingleberry about it. He's a good guy, despite the fact he is going to leave with one of his very dry, snarky one-liners, which is always so entertaining. So 5th place for Noah, as sadly he comes up short yet again. Episode 23 is kind of going to be the saddest one because we are losing Sammy, and I want Sammy to fight her heart out here. I want her to do everything in her power to find a way to get to stay, to the point where she even gets Scott to vote with her. She gets Scott to sway emotionally to side with her. I would say Lindsay, but I want Lindsay to be ditzy Lindsay and still thinking Topher is her best friend at this point. So Scott actually sways and votes with Sammy, so it is a tiebreaker between Sammy and Topher ends up beating her out here. That way we can show that Sammy really did fight her heart out to the end, and she was sort of the last glimmer of Noah's team, the last shining light on that side. And throughout the whole thing, we're just going to present Sammy as the nicest nice girl in the world. Beth, she's nothing. Sammy, she has a bit of a bite to her, like she did in Pocketail towards Amy, but now she's, just a very genuine, kind-hearted person, and she gets along very well with so many people, and her and Scott actually build this sort of friendship across the two sides, which is why Scott is willing to flip here, and this is sort of presenting Scott in a little bit more of a likable sense as well, leading into the final three. So Sammy falling here is a sad way to see her go, but at the same time, her loss is not going to be in vain, because in episode 24, at the final three, we are finally getting rid of Topher. And if you haven't guessed already, Topher is the character who I selected to play main antagonist. I wanted to shift his character a little bit because I really do like his design, and I like his idea and the performance that the voice actor gives for him. I don't know his voice actor's name off the top of my head. But Topher as a whole is a very enjoyable character, but if they shifted his attention away from Chris and onto the game, and kept his, egocentric attitude, he is a divine villain, and I really wanted to apply that to this season. He manipulates people by finding things they have in common, like him and Sierra have the super fan sort of thing, and whenever he doesn't need her anymore, or she starts to catch on to him, he cuts her. Whenever he's using Izzy to his advantage in the early stages of the game in the pre-merge, but then post-merge he sees Izzy as too much of a wild card, so he cuts her. He forms this sort of power structure between him manipulating Beth and Lindsay, and him also manipulating Scott, because Scott is shown to be relatively easily manipulated, particularly in All-Stars. And Topher is really using everything that he can to his advantage throughout the course of the season to get rid of his biggest threats and his biggest competition. And here at the end, what happens is in the final immunity challenge, he tries to screw over Lindsay, and Lindsay ends up winning, therefore being able to get rid of Topher at this point in the game, meaning she can finally get that little bit of comeuppance by taking out the person who's been using her since the teams merged ages ago. And Topher is gone here at the final three after hopefully a satisfying character rebirth and revamping, and hopefully a satisfying antagonist for the season, leaving our final two to be Lindsay and Scott. Now, episode 25 is going to be the final Aftermath episode, where we are looking at all of the characters present who have X's over their faces, pre-merge and post-merge, red and yellow, and they are going to discuss who they want to win between Lindsay and Scott and stuff like that. And we're going to recap the stories that both characters have been through and so on and so forth. So let's get into the finale. Like with every Total Drama season, the finale is going to have alternate winners, and the alternates are going to be between Scott and Lindsay. So let's talk about Scott's journey throughout the course of this season. So Scott is a character who did great in Revenge of the Island and then did great in All-Stars, and has been entertaining on all of his appearances, despite the fact that his character from Season 4 is way different than his character from Season 5 Part 1. So with this, what I wanted for Scott was I wanted him to still maintain his character and his entertaining aspects through being comedic, but also being on the villainous side of things, which is why I had him align with Topher. But I wanted to keep likability there, which is why I had him want to establish friendships with people like Sammy, and him just generally be an entertaining on-screen presence. He's used as comedic relief for much of the season, much like he was on All-Stars, because that is a very good role for him. But at the same time, throughout the season, he has a little bit of a underlying redemptive arc. Like, it's not in your face like a lot of redemption arcs are, but his is like sort of under the surface, and it's carrying over throughout the season, and I think Scott is a very deserving winner of any season at this point in time, and I would love to see him win an actual season, so I figured he was a very fitting winner of this season. I thought it would be a lot of fun to give him this sort of rub and this sort of nod, and I think I'm very pleased with how it turned out, with him sort of being a sidekick to the main antagonist throughout the season, but sort of being the heart of that side, and while being on that side, he also managed to pull off some strategic moves, and towards the end of the game, he shows that he can stand on his own 2 feet whenever he does flip and vote with Samey to try to get rid of Topher, but it does ultimately backfire, and Lindsay takes him out instead. So let's talk about Lindsay. Lindsay is a fantastic character from first boot to first place. She should not have been first boot on All Stars, I just want to say that. But throughout this season, Lindsay is at her Lindsayest, being powerful and strong and a very entertaining, ditzy woman who just brings so much entertainment to the show through her lack of intelligence yet overabundance of heart. And throughout the pre-merge, she doesn't do too much, but once Beth goes, she kicks it into high gear, and she is very dedicated to making it to the end. She's dedicating everything she does in the game to Beth. She is being utilized by Topher for a majority of it, but once we reach the final three, she does get that moment of revenge where she finds out Topher has been using her this whole time, and she's able to win the challenge and get rid of Topher, taking Scott to the final two, and ultimately becoming a champion in the game of Total Drama. And I just feel like she is such a deserving winner, and she did a fair amount throughout the season to warrant emotional attachment to her character. And I'm very pleased with how this whole thing turned out for both Scott and Lindsay. There you have it. That is the end of my completely randomized Total Drama season. What did you think of it? Did I do terrible? Should Fresh TV hire me? Let me know what you think in the comments below. How would you have done things differently? Do you have any ideas on how I can switch up the format and do something like this again? If you enjoyed it, please do leave a like and subscribe, and maybe we'll do more stuff like this. Leave comments, let me know how you felt about the entire idea, and anything else you would like me to do. I am eternally grateful for every single person who clicks on my content, and at the end of the day, this is all just for fun, so don't get too upset over anything said, and I won't get too upset over anything you guys say. If you think I could have done things differently or better, just try to present it in a kind-hearted way, because ultimately what we want is positivity, and we're all Total Drama fans. We all just want to have fun. So, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff, and I will see you guys in the not-so-distant future. Have a good night.